My name is Mike Robbins, and I would like to welcome you to this Pluralsight course on demystifying Active Directory user account lockouts with PowerShell. During this course, I will be walking you through how to troubleshoot a common problem that plagues many organizations. When a user changes his or her password, they often have stale credentials saved on a device that constantly locks out their Active Directory user account. Oftentimes, finding what device these stale credentials are saved on that is causing the lockout can be a tedious and time-consuming task. This course is beneficial for your help desk staff, administrators, engineers, and developers. The event logs were changed to XML-based event logs with Windows Vista and Server 2008, and the event IDs were changed from 3-digit to 4-digit numeric codes. The getWhen event PowerShell commandlet that we'll be using in this course was introduced with PowerShell version 2.0. Prior experience with the event logs in Active Directory would be beneficial because the more you understand about an underlying technology, the easier it will be to work with in PowerShell. The remote server administration tools are required. You'll also need sufficient permissions to query the security event log on the PDC emulator in your Active Directory domain. When a user's Active Directory account is locked out, the account lockout information is replicated to the PDC emulator in your domain through emergency replication. Each domain in a forest has a PDC emulator, so if you work with an environment that has more than one Active Directory domain, make sure you're querying the appropriate PDC emulator. Now it's time to show you how easy it is to locate the PDC emulator using one of the commandlets from the Active Directory PowerShell module, which installs as part of the remote server administration tools. First, we'll start out by simply running the getAdDomain commandlet without any parameters. Notice the PDC emulator is one of the properties that's returned. Now that we know which domain controller in our Active Directory domain holds the PDC emulator FSMO role, we'll move on to querying the security event log to determine what device is locking out one of our users. There are two commandlets for querying the event logs: getEventLog and getWhenEvent. We'll focus on using getWhenEvent for the purposes of this course. Let's take a look at the syntax for the getWhenEvent commandlet. As you can see, it has several different parameter sets. We'll be using the filter hash table parameter set to find the information we're looking for, since it's fairly easy to use along with being very fast and efficient. When working with a commandlet that you're not familiar with, I always recommend taking a look at the built-in help. So let's take a look at the help for the filter hash table parameter. There are a number of important items included in the help for this parameter. First, it takes a hash table for its value. A hash table is simply a collection of keys and values. Notice that a list of valid key pairs are listed in the help. Also notice that the data key in the hash table can be used for unnamed fields in classic event logs. So by using the filter hash table parameter, we can do what's called filtering left, or filtering early in the pipeline. The filtering is performed on the remote machine. So we'll specify hash table with the log name of security and event ID of 4740, which is the event ID for lockouts. You can see that returned almost immediately, and we have 4 lockouts. So we'll go ahead and add a start time because we don't need all of them from the beginning of time. Let's say we want all of them from the last 7 days. So we can actually use a subquery and specify get date and use a negative number with add days. You can see there's been 1 account lockout in the last 7 days in this domain. When a hash table is specified inline, it looks really complicated with the semicolons and all, but it's just a standard hash table. So we'll actually create a normal hash table and store it in a variable in this scenario just to simplify the hash table itself and to simplify the command overall. We'll put in the same information that we had in the previous command. And then we'll run the same command we previously ran, except instead of specifying the hash table one line, we'll specify the variable that contains the hash table. You'll notice we retrieved the same record that we previously retrieved. What you can do, since this is a classic event log, if you read the help, you can actually use the data key, and you can specify the actual user ID, or you can even specify the SID if that's what you choose. But we'll go ahead and add the data key to our hash table. We'll specify A Fuller, who is the user that's having the problem, and now we'll verify it does exist in the hash table, and we'll run the command again. So you'll notice this time it'll be the same one result that we returned before, because we're still filtering on start time. But let's go ahead and remove the start time from our hash table, and we'll pull all the lockout events that have occurred for A Fuller. So now you can see that we've removed the start time from our hash table. And this is one of the benefits of storing your hash table in a variable instead of having to type that out every time you run the command, especially when you're prototyping a command. So as you can see this time, Andrew Fuller has had 2 lockouts and they were 90 days apart. Okay, at this point we've got most of what we need, but we still need to determine what device is locking out A Fuller. So we're going to run the same command again, except this time we're going to pipe it to select object, select all the properties, and select the first result, which will give us all the properties for one of the entries that was previously returned. We can see that there's a message property and there is a caller computer name, but the problem is that property is a string. Now, believe it or not, there's a properties property there that is a collection. So now what we're going to do, we're actually going to pipe the same command to select object, and we're going to expand the properties collection, because the properties collection has all the information we need, and it's in different elements in the collection, so we don't have to use substring or parse the data out of the message property. So we can see A Fuller and PC01 is causing the lockout. So now that we have that information, we can simply run our same command that we've been running this entire time. We can pipe it to select object, and we'll put select object on a separate line at this point. If you were going to do that in an integrated scripting environment, you would need to hit Shift Enter instead of just Enter, otherwise the command would execute. So we're going to select the time created property, and we're going to create a couple of custom properties. The first one's going to be username, and we're going to use the first item in the properties collection, which is the username. And we actually need the value. If you saw that in the previous results, we need the value of that first item. Now the other custom property that we're going to create, and we're doing this in a one-liner on the fly, is computer name. And if you noticed in the previous command, the second element in the collection, and we'll grab that value. And this will give us all the information that we need. We'll know what time A Fuller was locked out, we'll know what his user ID is, and we'll also know what the computer name is. So that will give our help desk everything they need to know to walk A Fuller through clearing out Credential Manager on PC01 so this problem does not reoccur. I hope you've enjoyed this Pluralsight course where we've learned how to solve the real-world problem of trying to determine what device is locking out an Active Directory user account. During this course, we've learned that all lockouts are transmitted to the PDC emulator in the Active Directory domain through emergency replication, and detailed information about those lockout events is stored in the security event log of the PDC emulator. We've also learned how to query the event log for the necessary information to know what device is causing the user account lockout.